It's always an honor, a pleasure, moreover a duty. So before I go any further, I would like to recite the Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Indeed, it's always an honor, a pleasure, moreover a duty, to come before our Portland listening audience to give you some wisdom of the day. Before I go any further, I would like for my listening audience to look at the Reader's Digest because you'll be getting some wisdom from Brother Bruce Broussard.
Okay, I guess we're on here. Everything is just fine, and like you, James, I really appreciate and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity here to chat with you.
Yes, sir.
In all due respect, another wise wisdom individual who's constantly communicating with the community and for the community across
Yes,
the
sir.
board.
Yes, sir.
And we've got certain like backgrounds, if you will. We were both military type individual. You in the Army, I was in the Marine Corps, right? You got me? So we've had that experience.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, go on.
Now, this is going to come on for 10 minutes.
We're talking now.
It's going to be on for 10 minutes.
Yes.
That's what they're playing.
They
10 minutes.
take whatever it is.
So
Yeah.
I'm saying after that,
Yeah,
then that's when we
then
just
we'll have
go.
a conversation. Right.
Yeah.
But we're talking now. We're
Yeah.
on. We're now.
Yeah.
But this is
Yeah.
good. And folks understand what we want to make sure we're communicating to you, the people. It's very, very important aspect of it. And so we want to make sure you understand. And that's the other thing I wanted to make sure that we're doing. And we do this all the time. I mean, he does his show, I do a show, Oregon Voters Digest aspect of it. And too often, some folks don't understand what that was. And sometimes I have to share that with them. The Oregon Voters Digest is a historical piece from
right.
Oregon's standpoint. And in fact, if you look through the history, it was in fact, as far as I'm concerned, it was the first blue book of Oregon. I mean, there are blue books in every state of the union aspect of it. Every state has a blue book, and this was a very interesting piece. So we've got a little video that on now that we recorded from my show aspect of it, and to educate the public about what my role is, and what is the Oregon Voters Digest, and what was it, etc. And it also highlights the fact that I ran for office at one point in time, which is something
right.
that's something that I've always reached out to because I think that's a very important piece. The idea is to try to motivate other folks like myself to want to run for office. Very important, if you will. And it also gave me an opportunity. Imagine getting out of the Marine Corps. Out of the Marine Corps, came here as a Marine recruiter, and landed in Portland, Oregon, and was recruited. I did a good job. We right from Vietnam. We both did. We did the Vietnam piece aspect of it. But I can still think about the fact that I knew anybody who lived in this area. I didn't know anybody, but I was a recruiter.
Wow.
And yeah, I put my dress blues on and went out there and looking for a few good men and women.
Yes,
You
sir.
know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And so that was good because that gave me the opportunity to go out and meet people throughout the state for that matter. And I was a pretty successful recruiter, you know what I mean? And that was good. So it's just a continuation of kind of trying to figure out where do I go from here, so to speak. So when I basically not necessarily end the military, but because the military was involved, I had the DNA. Like we've always had the DNA, if you will,
Right.
a military aspect of it.
Right.
That's why I wear my gear today, just to remind me, because there are some things that I was introduced to when I went to Vietnam and spent my tour, like yourself and whatever. It has an impact on us, and a lot of people don't realize that post-traumatic PTSD aspect of it, and I think we both fell short of that piece.
That's right.
And it's still there.
Yes,
And so one of the reasons why I was getting involved and staying busy aspect of it, and it was great that I was able to do the recruiting aspect of it. It gave me an opportunity to not get more heavily involved in PTSD. Got me? I still do a lot of looking at military films and things of that nature. But the fact of the matter is that staying busy was very important to me, aspect of it. So, so anyway, we got some things we want to share, and all I'm basically doing is going back in time of when I first came here as a Marine recruiter, and to give you in Portland, Oregon, and give you a sense of what I've done. I did from that point on, from being a recruiter to the day sitting out here with you, sitting here with you. So now
What
that
they say,
I don't know,
whenever ready.
but that's okay. We will just kind of and I'm sure that the viewing audience do understand that we're trying to put. Oh, he's coming on over now.
The Oregon Voters Digest. Through the years, I've been using the Oregon Voters Digest to make Oregon whole. The definition of the Oregon Voters Digest back in 1915 stands today. The Oregon Voters Digest. A digest of legislation, finance, industry, taxation, and public affairs in Oregon statewide, published each month. Founded by the late great C.C. Chapman in 1915, the Oregon Voters Digest has for over 68 years been the political and financial Bible for the state's leaders. Politicians, business people, and professionals of all kinds have found the Oregon Voters Digest as an indispensable handbook and guide. It has provided a stream of clear, concise, and complete information and analysis on public affairs, taxation, business, and finance. The influence of the Oregon Voters Digest in Oregon's public affairs is legendary. Again, through the eyes of video productions, I've had the opportunity, again, through making Oregon whole, by interviewing individuals throughout the state of Oregon on the Oregon Voters Digest talk show. It has been very, very interesting. Take a look at what we've got to share with you in terms of the impact of the Oregon Voters Digest.
Hey, we're here live at the Capitol, and our guest today is Senator Vicki Walker from Eugene. And naturally, one of the major concerns here that's facing our state is naturally the whole issue of unemployment, the economic issue, education. We are definitely in a dire need, and one of those areas is education. There were some issues that's surrounding the confirmation hearing of Neil Goldsmith. Now you're running for mayor. You retired as chief not too long ago, and so why do you want to do this? What's the deal?
Well, you know, for the last few years, I really felt like our city was drifting.
Thursday, I indicated we're going to get into ballot measure Thursday. I mean, that's the hottest thing going at this point in time, as you know. I was able to get a member from the Republican Party, and I'm talking about a guy by the name of Tim Trickey. He's Multnomah County Republican Party's political director, Tim. Then we've got Dan Fitzgerald, who represents the Libertarian Party. And then as far as the Democratic Party, for some strange reason, he hasn't shown up yet. But what we're going to do, we're going to make sure there's equal time here. They have taken a position, and we've got the voters pamphlet here, and I'm going to read that position. Ann Nice, president of the Portland Association of Teachers. Who's Ann Nice?
It's a good question.
Welcome to the Oregon Voters Digest. I'm your host, Bruce Broussard. With me today are gubernatorial candidates Denny Smith and Craig Berkman. We'll be discussing briefly the background of each candidate and also cover some of the issues surrounding crime, school funding, maybe the environmental issues, and taxes. To begin our discussion is Denny Smith and also his wife, Deanna. Welcome, Denny. And Deanna.
parents were involved in the political realm when I was a kid. My dad was governor.
With me these next few minutes is Craig Berkman. As you know, he's a candidate running for governor of Oregon. Welcome, Craig.
Nice to be with you.
Craig, tell me, why do you want to be governor of Oregon?
Well, I think, like all the candidates who are running, I think I can make a constructive difference.
Joining us the first half of our show is John Kitzhaber, Democratic candidate for governor, and we're going to discuss some of the issues that concern us all, such as crime, education, government spending, and the various ballot measures. And I'm talking to Elaine Colgan and also Lynn Bernstein. Tonight, we're going to really get down to the issues. So hopefully, between us and what you're going to hear tonight, you'll be able to get some, maybe get a sense in terms of how to go out to the polls. And by the way, I want to encourage you to get out and vote. You fans on KBOO, we're also televising this particular hour, and what we're going to do is going to benefit the viewers of the talk show, Oregon Voters Digest. So I'm Bruce Broussard, and welcome again to the Portland Public Schools No Child Left Behind Forum. The whole focus of this particular gathering, if you will, is to focus on the seats that are going to be sought after, if you will, by a number of Portlanders as far as the school board is concerned. When you start talking about taxes and unemployment, and things of that nature, is definitely a non-partisan position. And please, let's get away from the partisan position on this issue. Trust me, people who are working in government are Republican, Democrats, Independents, all kinds of folks. People who are paying taxes are Republican, Democrats, Independents, and all kinds of folks. People who are unemployed, the same boat. So we got a crisis, we're trying to solve this thing, and I want you to open up your minds and think about what's going on. Those of you who are working every day, I want you to listen to what's going on.
And now, here's the host of Oregon Voters Digest, Bruce Broussard.
Hello, my name is Bruce Broussard. I'm a candidate for the Republican nomination for Ron Wyden's U.S. Senate seat. Yes, a black Republican with some French Creole thrown in. But I'm not running because I'm a minority. I'm running because I'm an American and longtime Oregonian. I spent 10 years in the military as a U.S. Marine. After a tour of duty in Vietnam, I was assigned as a Marine recruiter in Portland, Oregon. I like Portland and Oregon so much, I made my home here and spent several years in the Army National Guard, attaining the rank of warrant officer. I've been in business in Portland and actively volunteered thousands of hours for better schools, youth programs, job development, safer neighborhoods, and affordable housing for seniors and low-income families. As producer and host of Oregon Voters Digest, a weekly cable access TV program, I've interviewed well-known and little-known people from all sectors about community problems and solutions. Portland is just a part of Oregon. The whole state is struggling. A high unemployment rate is often more painful in Tillamook, Roseburg, Klamath Falls, Albany, Redmond, Hermston, Pendleton, LeGrand, Enterprise, Baker City, Ontario, Burns, or any small town. The further you are from Salem or Portland, the harder it is to get attention or help. I want to help Senator Gordon Smith work to make Oregon whole. Smaller counties and towns are the real Oregon. They deserve more attention. Senator Wyden seems more concerned with high publicity issues than he is with folks in Grant County. I doubt that Wyden has ever owned a business or had to meet a payroll. He's worked in the public sector, mostly in Washington, D.C., all of his adult life, and is now removed and out of touch with Oregon. It's time for another senator from Oregon who's been an employee in the private sector and also an employer. My wife, Norma, calls that the real world. I want to learn more firsthand about your town and your county and what's needed. Norma and I will be touring Oregon soon and want very much to meet you. I need your vote to make Oregon whole again.
I remember 2 years ago when Mr. Broussard was running for an office, we had him at our potluck, and he told us that he was going to do something like this. And you know, I think we have so many politicians who tell you what's going to happen if they get elected. He didn't get elected, and he did it. So if he hadn't got elected, he might have did bigger things. So next time he runs for office, let's elect him and see what he will do.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Going on.
Yes.
Well, anyway, I just wanted to. This is just sort of an introduction that I thought would be good at this point in time to educate the people about, what happened when I got here as a Marine recruiter, and then I got involved. I found a lane. I think everyone has to have a lane, meaning that have some sense of direction, right? And I had the opportunity to meet some individuals such that they said, "But Bruce, why don't you consider running for office?" Because I was out there in the community aspect of it. And so consequently, I did that. That was the lane. But while doing that, it's like anything else, I was a Marine. I was a Marine person. That was my career on everything there. So you still have to eat.
That's right.
You got to eat. So anyway, so I got involved in some other things, if you will. And during those times, there were issues in the community like housing and discrimination among housing and things of that nature, and jobs and things of that nature. So I got involved, and as Marie Smith, she's not with us anymore, but she was very active, and those were some of the people that I had met early on, and housing was an issue, and my wife and I were very, very much involved in trying to provide home ownership, because from a historical standpoint, blacks were able to buy a car when they went to the bank, but they couldn't get the money to buy a home. So we decided at that point in time that we're going to do everything we could. We hadn't necessarily the credit at that point in time. It's like anything else. When you have credit, now you got the other points that you have to have, etc. So we basically got involved in that deal aspect of it, and the housing aspect of it. And it was Better Housing Corporation that I was very much involved in. And Herman Plummer was very involved. Herman Plummer was a realtor, and so he introduced me to part of that piece, and I got involved. I worked myself up to president of the corporation, and a gentleman by the name of Spike Paget gave me the opportunity to be involved in that whole piece. He was working with the late Benjamin Franklin banking aspect of it. They were very much involved in that stuff. So the whole thing was focusing in Northeast Portland. Where a majority of the blacks living in Oregon were living right here in this core area, and so I reached out to folks who were incarcerated, because when I was in the Marine Corps, that was part of my recruiting thing. I was trying to figure out how to get the brother back into society, and what a better opportunity to go on and serve in the military, and do that piece aspect of it. Some guys couldn't, but because I was very familiar with that particular system, I reached out to them, and we hired some of the folks that try to get them in that transition piece. And I always remember the guy, but his name was Red Sand. That was his nickname, Red Sand, and he worked for us aspect of it, and he became part of the organization aspect of it, and bring back all kinds of memories. I could spend hours just talking about the things that we did, but we were in the housing piece aspect of it, but we also gave folks an opportunity to own home ownership, get them out of a renting environment into a home ownership environment. We carried the paper, and I was working very closely with the bank, savings and loan, and aspect of it. And so consequently, they'd give me the opportunity to purchase the home, and then I'd rehab it, and then we'd spec them out, so to speak, and I came up with a program such that I didn't put so much money in the remodeling aspect of it. We did the basics, made sure that we gutted the kitchen, and we gutted the bathroom, if you will, and made sure those were good, clean aspect of it, and just some simple things, clean the house up and this, that, and the other, and kept that number down as far as it kind of represented their rent. So whatever they were paying for rent, they were able to buy a home, so to speak. So we carried the paper, and we basically, and then the legal aspect of it was a lease option purchase. They were leasing, but they were purchasing. And I worked very closely with U.S. Bank and some of the other entities around, and the whole idea was that to develop their credit, they had to open up a credit account over there to build up their credit, so to speak. And then the idea, the whole concept of it was that 5 years down the road, they'd be building up equity. They didn't have to come up with nothing down. The down payment was first month, last month, and cleaning deposit. Same thing they would have been doing when they would rent. But during that particular time, that was enough money because property value during that particular time was low. And I wanted to make sure that the transition was good. It wasn't for folks could actually carry that first month, last month, and cleaning deposit. You got to live somewhere. And I'm here to say that a number of those people benefited from that piece today. You know, they kept those houses. But I wanted to do more than that. And unfortunately, I didn't get enough of the financial institutions to reach out to me. And I was a little frustrated about it, but I kept on going. So I was focusing in the Northeast Portland corridor. So some of the things that were happening during that particular time, I noticed that Portland never had an address for black folks. They had districts, they had legislative districts, they had congressional districts, they had all kinds of districts, but black folks never had a district. It was just considered to be Northeast Portland. So we made the effort at one point in time that during that particular time, I'm going ahead a little bit myself, but I was very much involved with the Portland Observer newspaper at one time, a little short piece. A. Lee Henderson was quite a guy. Pastor Henderson of Bethlehem Mead Church, you know, and he'd come to me at one point in time, just going back a little history-wise, and asked me whether or not I'd be interested in being a publisher of a newspaper. I said, I don't know anything about publishing. He said, well, Bruce, why don't you just go on and do that piece? And I did. I did that. And I said that to say that because I had something in the front of my name, you know, sort of a publisher, so to speak, and we were transitioning, took the time to get that address and work with some of the folks in the community, one of which he's still here, vibrant. I still think he should get involved in politics, and Ron Herndon of the Black United Front. And I made mention of that because there are a lot of us, you know, that have done some things, if you will. A lot of times we're not together, but we're doing. And so Ron and I basically got involved, and as a result, we got District 18. Every 10 years, you know, they go through that whole business of, and we were able to get District 18, where we had the majority, and it wasn't just a black district. It was a district where a large minority of minorities, black folks, were in that particular district. And in fact, folks don't realize that because, but let me tell you about that history. There would not have been a Margaret Carter or Avell Gordley or Lou Frederick. These are folks as a result of District 18 and representing, you know, and people don't know about that history. We could talk a little bit more about that piece. But my point is that we had the efforts, but the I's weren't dotted. You know, I mean, we just didn't get it all together, because you would think that, imagine if we had District 18 today, when we organized and began. I'm kind of like reminded of the Wall Street area, the Oklahoma City aspect of it. They called it Wall Street at one point in time. I mean, we were developing aspect of people owning home and property, which is very, very important, because that is America. Home ownership. You know, You get a renter, and you show me a renter and a homeowner, two different individuals. But we never had the opportunity to get there. We had a lot of programs, but but what I can say this to say today, that we just wasn't organized. And I'm not going to blame the majority community. I'm just going to say, okay, fine, that's the way it was. But now I'm saying we've got to organize. We've got to organize. We've got to make sure we understand it. And I think we have. And I think folks do understand what home ownership is. It might be small, but it's there. But I want to throw that in there because that's a very important piece about the home ownership piece. And then jobs. We went through, and I got very much involved in the construction industry. Highway construction was huge, and a guy named gentleman by the name of Perrin Mitchell was very, very much involved. He was from back east, right, Maryland, and he was basically, he was a congressperson, and he was on the highway commission piece, on the committee, and as a result of that, he was reacting to his District 18, so to speak, and making sure his people were getting involved, black folks, and as a result of that, he was trying to promote that concept throughout the country, and we happened. So I had the opportunity to meet him with a couple of other individuals that are local. You'll probably hear those names, one of which is alive and with it, a gentleman by the name of O.B. Hill and Charles Cruz. And then right up front with you, we had the opportunity to meet with him and with Congressman, with the congressperson, and boy, that was a great deal. And he shared with us what his goals were and plans. Mm-hmm. And so that opened up the doors, and where we were basically able to get jobs in the highway construction in the state of Oregon aspect of it. That just opened the doors all over the state. But there was a lot of politics during that particular time. But I'm just mentioning just one little piece of it, aspect of it. And I got in the construction business for a while, you know what I mean? And basically trying to hire more folks from the community. And then you learn what that business was all about. I had something in front of my name. And the Associated General Contractor comes up to the table, aspect of it. And there was all kinds of affirmative action and this, that, and the other. But when it get down to the bottom line today, if I had to do it all over when I was doing it, maybe I didn't recognize it as much, because a number of blacks were just basically laborers. And when you start thinking about construction, if you don't know the job, you're not going to go anywhere. But the effort was to kind of create subcontractors and prime contractors among blacks. Well, we were laborers, slave laborers aspect of it. So my position was, okay, fine. If you're gonna rather than do contractors, prime contractors, why don't we start out with a little subcontractor, working for a contractor, a white contractor, on the job, and said, okay, fine. Well, look, you got this guy over here on this backhoe, a machine, basically that digs the hole, et cetera, and you said he's the best worker you got. Well, why don't we start with him? Let him be the subcontractor. And then maybe you could sell him that backhoe after you basically said you cost it out on your ledger. And then you sell it back to him, if you will, on a monthly basis aspect of it. And then let him do the work that you normally would do with him when he was just working for you. Now he can be a subcontractor. Because during that particular time, we didn't have a person could be a subcontractor or a general contractor, but guess what? Blacks weren't doing the work. And you can't continue being responsible on a job with you just being the person. And you've heard things about fronts and this thing. There was all kinds of politics during that particular time. But I'm here to say that we got introduced to that piece, which was good. We got introduced to it. And so now to date, even here now in Oregon, we've got a few contractors that have gotten up to that particular point. We got Colas. I got Colas. I think he's doing a lot of housing and stuff and development, whatever. You drive down the MLK today and you see the large apartment complex and whatever. But again, you still don't see the laborers are not African Americans. You see what I'm saying? But they're getting there. And that brings up another subject matter aspect of it, because we were talking about the whole issue of affirmative action was all based on African Americans, so to speak. But then we got into the whole issue of identifying minorities, and that language just changed quite a bit. So meaning a lot of folks who were coming from other countries trying to come to get to the American way aspect of it, they were being listed as minorities, and et cetera, et cetera. But naturally, they were more enthusiastic about it because, you know, here we were struggling, we were opening the doors and whatever, and there was nobody to hold our hands to keep us in that particular realm. It's not an easy task, if you will. You got to have someone that you can rely upon to show you the way aspect of it. This was just hard work. It just so happened we were the labor force. We were the labor force. So, again, those are some other things that hopefully we can talk about. I guess my point is that, if you notice, I'm just going here and this, that, and the other. But we're at a point now in 2022 that we've got a lot of folks reaching for that stuff. And now, when we've been there and we've done it, black folks have done it. And I'm reminded to that, and I'm thinking about all the years that I spent trying to do something. But I was on the right track. I was on the right lane aspect of it. And the good Lord gave me that ability to stay on that lane. And today, you know, as I remind the folks a lot of times, I got 30 years. I'm 30 years old.
My man.
And I got 54 years of experience. That makes me 84, I think.
Yes, sir.
See, you see what I'm saying? So I understand that, you see? And so, and I feel very proud of the fact that what I've done. But I also feel very strongly that I didn't forget where I came from. I knew we had to have a transition. And I know that at times I'd get angry, but the military was the one that kept me focused in many ways. It kept me focused because we had issues when we were in the military.
Yes, sir.
Big time issues in the military. And I'm shifting a little bit now at this point in time aspect of it. And when you start thinking about the military and thinking about our participation, we participate in every war in this country. Every war. Imagine. We probably got more African Americans that have died that were Medal of Honor winners, but didn't get the medal, and fought for this country, and we're very proud of the fact. Now I get down to the point of here now we're sitting here, you and I, and that's what I basically, you and I talked about this, and I said, with what's going on right now, and where do we go from here aspect of it, both of us have knowledge. I mean, I really feel comfortable and respectful to you for what you've done in your seat, trying to educate folks about a gentleman that was part and parcel of that, Marcus Garvey. And I can still remember when you reached out to me and asked me on his birthday to do a piece, and I went back in time and read that short piece, and boy, I tell you, it was quite interesting because that wasn't being taught in the schools. We didn't get the education, but you gave that to me, and then I shared it, and then other things like that, and like yourself for that matter. And again, we're both military guys aspect of it. And you staying on your lane, you know, you focus, you're right up there. Yes, and you told me about Barry and folks like that, and I did shows on him. And what I'm getting to is that we've got all this knowledge, and we're such a dividing force. We've got all kinds of exports. We've got all sorts of samplings of things that were trying to stop us from being recognized and identified, and this, that, and the other. In this country, it's the greatest country in the world. And in many ways, we need to understand that we need to educate those individuals who at one point in time were overseers. That we built this country. And they were basically the leading force. I'm talking about that white male.
Yes, sir.
And there's a history there in terms of how that all became, because Great Britain was the mother country, and they sent their folks over here who were supervisors to basically clean the place up and grow the crop and send the best over. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things that were happening, if you will, and I've gotten a little taste of it, and I didn't get this education in our education system. I got this just through what? And my organizational mindset along, and why I'm sitting up here now with you and whatever, was the military. That's what brought it. So now the thing is that now all of a sudden today, we've got folks that have been educated within our ranks. And again, now's the time to hook up the dots. And so the point I'm making here now is that just recently I happened to run across a piece that I saw like anything else. And you know, and we all know that the new education system is this little device right here. Right. The whole world is on here. The whole education piece, everything that I've been talking about is on here. But the key is that how you put the pieces together. Because in one case, you can just be angry. We hear about the fight, the white supremacists. We hear this, excuse the French, on the other side of that, the niggers. And what do you mean in here? What's that deal? So no one has been able to put the pieces together to kind of get a sense of how we got to that point of nigger and how did we got to this point of white supremacy. And we're talking about two males, black male and a white male.
Yes, sir.
That's what we're talking about, black male and a white male. And then all of a sudden, you start thinking about those pieces. I've been reading about those pieces, that history and how that all happened, and the Revolutionary War, and you know what I mean. And then all of a sudden, the whole issue with the Confederacy and the Union soldier and Lincoln. You know, I get all these little pieces aspect of it, but there's not a professor to tell me what am I reading.
My man.
I'm still angry.
Yes, sir.
Because I'm looking at Emmett Till. I was back in them days, you know what I mean? But I didn't know what that was all about. I'm sitting here born in Louisiana and raised in Texas, down in the South. And when Lincoln basically came up with the Emancipation Proclamation, I didn't know anything about that. I was in school, and you know, mom and dad was working. You know, mom was working. Anyway, we were just working. You know what I mean? With the bottom, I didn't know what that's all about. And then here I am sitting up there going to the park, up in Third Ward in Houston, Texas.
Yes, sir.
And there was a recreation center called Emancipation Park. They named it after the emancipation of 1863. I didn't know what to this date, I didn't know. But then all of a sudden, someone shares it with me on this. Not in the education system, because in the education system, it just went over. It was just 1863. Well, what does that mean? And mom and dad was not as a well-read group or whatever, or better yet, even the so-called folks who were the upper class aspect of it didn't get the mainstream of what that Civil War was all about. But then you pick it up through the movie Glory with Denzel Washington. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
You get what I'm saying? And then still you can't put all the dots together. Well, I'm here to tell you that guess what? There was another entity that came to the table. After I saw Denzel Washington, I really felt very good. I've looked at that piece for about maybe 10 or 20 times. But I needed another piece to dot some I's. So all of a sudden, there was another guy that came to the table. A documentary, a movie that I just saw. That's why we're here. That's why I'm here today.
Yes, sir.
We got to educate our people across the board. And I mean that there's a movie out there right now called Who We Are. Who We Are. And here's this African American male, born in the South, Memphis, Tennessee, Harvard graduate, 40 years, ACLU during that particular time in Memphis, deep South aspect of it. And he had 40 years. And you would have thought in 40 years, Harvard, I mean, he could have been talking about this stuff a long time ago. But guess what? He couldn't put the pieces together, just like we're talking about now. I could have done the same thing. But guess what? I can't put the pieces together. But now I got a format. We got a format. We got a format right here, sitting right here in Oregon.
Yes, sir.
We're sitting up here in an open signal. We can communicate. We're talking. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at this piece because I'm aware of all this exposure that we've been having and talking about the things all our exploit and some of our historical exploit that we'll know aspect of it. But I'm saying, where are the pieces? Can give me something that I can hold on to, so that the people that I'm communicating with on air can understand where I'm coming from, so we can solve our differences between the white male and the black male.
Jeez, brother.
So I'm saying to the black male and to the white male, that's what we want to do. That's what I want to do. That's what we've been talking about, and we're sharing it. So this is not just one show. We're just so fortunate to be living at this point in time.
Yes, sir.
And having survived the Vietnam War, and are still ill in many ways with some of the things that we've done. You and I both are disabled. And that's a fact. But because we're so busy and we got a lane and we're still focusing, we've got all these pieces together. And now we have the opportunity now, because of that involvement, because of this time, to get us out of this situation where we're non-productive and the whole idea of race and this, that, and the other. And even in this state, just recently, I just heard about there was a piece on the tube not too long on the news aspect of it, and as you know, this is the year of the woman. We've got 3 women running for governor. 3 women running for governor. And I just happen to know 2 of them pretty well. I know the Democratic person, Tina Kosak. She's from the area, so to speak. And then I know Betsy Johnson, and she was a Democrat, but she was on the coast aspect of it. That's right. She was a senator, Democrat senator. And then there's a Republican person who was kind of like the minority party aspect. I don't know her, but I know of her aspect of it. But anyway, as they're vying and this, that, and the other, and I thought that was very interesting. The piece that said that Betsy Johnson, and then naturally there's a lot of promo about divide here in the Northeast Portland corridor. And we're carrying the torch. We're not carrying the torch. Talking about the whole issue of all of the drugs and the warfares and the shootings and the guns and this, that, and the other. But it's Northeast Portland, right? And you always see that DNA, it's part of the DNA aspect of it. Well, she's frustrated. She's got good background. She comes from a position where she basically has left her Democratic Party piece and went independent. So now we got 3 different entities right there. And she's got a lot of folks that are supporting her. But you got the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. That's a solid DNA on both sides. So she's got to be able to win in that kind of an environment. But she made a statement the other day, and when you're running for office and people are just making all kinds of names of you and this, that, and the other, talking about your family, talking about this and this, that, and the other, sometimes you break down and you say something that you might would like to take back. But in today's climate, with the visual aid and the camera and this, I can get you on tape.
That's right.
And she made a statement about the fact about Portland, because everything leads to Portland because of black folks. Everything negative is black folks. Well, things are changing here. But she made a statement. She was angry about maybe some of the things that have been happening downtown that we've been seeing about the young men clad in black, breaking the windows and this and the other. See, with me, I look at them like recruit. As a recruiter, I'm looking at these males, and those are good candidates for me in the
That's
Marine Corps.
right.
You know what I'm saying? That's the way I look at the aspect of it. And the majority of those young dudes are white, but they're young. And a lot of them they're classified as white supremacists. No, we got to educate them. But she made the point, getting back to that, she made the point about, well, Portland, Oregon, you got a bunch of roaches down there. Roaches? Well, she made the statement. Then tried to come back and said, well, I wasn't talking, excuse the French, I wasn't talking about you, Bruce. Wait. No.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? But my DNA said, yes, you were. So I picked up the phone to call. But I didn't get no response. But I was wanting to do that for her because I know her. Hey, why don't you come over here and explain it? Let people know where you are. You don't want to talk about that part. Talk about what the issues are and your solutions to the issues. If it's housing, if it's this, or it's this, abortion, whatever. But talk about the issues. Don't get angry over that. Don't spend that much time because you got the opposition that's going to pick it up. So I'm just giving this as an example as to sometimes we can lose good people if we're not careful, because that's a tough race, running for governor, and you outside of the masses. You got me? And nowadays, money can't buy everything. Money can't buy everything. Because everybody has a TV program.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Huh?
That's right.
And they call them pods now.
Yes, sir.
You don't even want to do them, right? You got me?
That's right.
So I'm sharing that to say that these are just some little excerpts of things that comes to mind. Let's put it that way. And I've got a number of those things coming in my head, and at the same time trying to survive, and at the same time trying to stay on track. Got me? Because age is not an issue. I've got wisdom, and we'll share this. We're fortunate, you and I, to do that, to share this with. We want to get it out to the public. We want to do whatever we can to help. Okay, aspect on that end of it. So, I went back. I'm going back now to when we first started. There's this piece. There's this piece that you can Google. You can Google this right now if you got one. And sometimes people can't afford this, and then naturally they got so many selections to make about Googling anything. They say, last thing I'm interested in politics. I could kill it. Majority of the public that could kill us about politics and who Bruce is or who Dan. You know, they could kill us. But look, y'all got to stop for a minute. And so we got to say, okay, fine. What can we do to get their attention? Well, this is an attention getter. This is the first time I've seen a situation where they've put together a piece that dots the I's for both sides of the aisle, for that black male and that white male. And the show says, it's titled, Who We Are. Who We Are. You can Google it, but you don't get the show. You just get excerpts of the show. This is the show. Just so happens it comes on Comcast, one of the supporters of what we do. Because they're paying the bill for us to do our show.
That's right.
And I want to get in that respect. But if you go to Comcast and Google Netflix, which is on Comcast, Netflix, Who We Are, by Jeffrey Robinson. And it was produced by two white women. Two white women. They produced this show. I'll tell you, it's about an hour and 15 minutes. I was glued to the piece.
You can get that done.
We got to get this done. I mean, it says more. In fact, I could probably do the same if I had producers to a certain degree. Well, we're producers. That's what we're doing.
Yes, sir.
But I'm giving credit where credit due. This thing, I mean, puts together the definition and defines that big deal of what racism is all about. It's our history. It's the history of this country. And it's so important because now there's a certain element, all due respect, in the white majority that's trying to say, we don't want anybody to know about that history. But we do need to know about history. The history of America goes back. And it started with Lincoln. In fact, it started the first day when they brought African slaves here. And we talked about this every so often about Africans were selling Africans to cats who were buying them up. They were commodities. And I'll tell you, and this show will talk to you about that. Why was it that Africans were called slaves? It was about the money. Somebody had to pick up that cotton, pick up that sugar cane and that rice. Because the folks that were already here, they couldn't handle that heat. So they brought these Africans down here. And guess who picked it up? They did.
Yes, sir.
And at the end of the day, they were just like money, collateral. They could trade that stuff. They said, man, this is about the money. The Civil War was about money. But I'm saying with you is this, I'm not giving you the whole picture. Now, it's going to be up to you, the viewing audience, to go and Google this show. And we're going to do everything. I'm going to do everything I can. We're going to do everything we can to show it. Because that's where the discussion is. It dots the I's. It dots the I's and puts it together so that we've got something that we can go from this day forward. Because many of us have prospered. So now what we need to do is work it together. We got all these outside entities coming to this country, and for us the other thing on the other side. Blacks get concerned about a lot of the so-called immigrants that are coming to this country, because when they come to the country, they get the education with no problem. And I'm looking at all the folks that are incarcerated, all the folks that are incarcerated, black folks that are incarcerated, and what happened to their education?
That's right.
And the same thing on the white side, the white male. He's sitting up here saying, I can't be the head cat anymore. So I'm saying, look, you can be the head cat. I get my education. I can go wherever, depending upon how much work I put in the deal. So we got to get down to the point where we can say, okay, fine. Now we're talking about equality, but you got to be educated in this country to make it. We got our major education through these wars. Because in all due respect, had there not been a war and a draft, we wouldn't be sitting here.
That's right. That's right.
Right? Got me?
That's right.
Now there's no draft. I was a recruiter. All them young folks that I was dealing with, I was going down to the penal institution. I was going down to JDH. I was focusing on those young in the court system, going before the judges and talking to the young and giving them a better way. I didn't realize what I was doing. We need that draft because our education system is because the bottom line, we're not educating our young folks across the board. So I've kind of said a lot. I'd like to say to the viewing audience, don't try to go back 50 years. 50 years.
5 minutes.
50 years and where I'm at. So the whole idea is that I'm going to cut it off at this point in time, but we're not going to cut it off, right? I'm going to shift it back to you to let them know just basically straight up that we're going to continue doing this piece, and we're going to start sharing pieces of this piece. But go back there, please Google Who We Are on Netflix, on YouTube. But you do YouTube, they give you excerpt. But if you go on and get the movie, which is on Comcast, which is on Netflix right now, on Comcast, okay? Do that piece, and that'll be a start, and then to start looking at our shows.
Yes, sir.
There you go, Brother James.
Man, indeed, it's an honor to be able to talk to Bruce Broussard because I hadn't talked to him in a while. And he's talking to us about a whole lot of things that we as a people need to listen to. Also, Voters Digest. We're going to try to, at least once a month, put up one of his videos because there's so many things that he's talking about. He even talked about Marcus Garvey. He even talked about the brother that was the first, what was he? The brother that you say had a degree, and he was the first one that had some type of degree.
Jeffrey Robertson.
Jeffrey Robinson,
yes.
Yeah.
Right. Basically, who put this piece together, Who We Are.
He
had all the pieces.
Yes, sir.
But it was these two white women
yes, sir.
that put it together in a show.
But we're going to put this together and bring them here.
Yes.
Because we come on the show once a month.
Yes.
So we will have a show once a month,
Right.
and you could bring them in
very
and
much so.
teach them.
Oh, yes.
Because we haven't been doing this for a
Exactly.
while.
That's right.
So it's always an honor.
Yes.
I'm honored. You know, you used to work together, you know, with Bruce Broussard, and we used to go out there to the veterans place.
Oh, yes.
You know, the
VA.
with the brother that passed, that we used to go out there to his grave site. What was his name?
Oh, you talking about for the Buffalo Soldier.
Buffalo Soldier.
The Buffalo Soldier, yes.
I remember we used to do
Yes.
that. These are
Medal
things
of
that
Honor, yes.
we have to start doing these things again to wake the people.
Yep.
So
right.
we're always honored, and we're going to get a lot of these things done because Bruce is not just talking, he's putting the work in. So whatever we could do as we're doing, just let me know. And I'm right here with you, brother. It's always an honor. So I'm going to close out now. I'm going to close out with the Moorish prayer. But before I say the Moorish prayer, I would like to quote something else to us all. Ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother has given ye suck. That the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with thy brother, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when we separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you through love and unity, and prefer thou the stranger before thine own blood. If thy brothers in adversity assist him, if thy sisters in trouble forsake her not, so shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all in our love to each other. The Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. It's always an honor, my brother. You're always teaching.
Dean,
Yes, sir.
That's right. So, and it's so important
Yes, sir.
that we stay focused. We have to.
Yes,
When you
sir.
think about your grandkids and
Yes, sir.
and family members and
Yes,
whatever
sir.
in this society that we have today.
Yes, sir.
And there's a lot of folks that are not with us today. But
Yes,
had
sir.
it not been for them, we wouldn't be sitting here.
Yes, sir. I thought about my father when you was talking
Oh, wow.
because he was in World War I
Yes.
and World War II,
Yes.
and he was an Army recruiter.
Yes.
He did 30-some years in the military.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
so I'm honored.
Oh,
He was
wow.
born in Barbados.
And what about Colin Powell? Look at
Yes,
that.
sir.
brother. Look at
Yes,
that.
sir.
brother. Look
We
at
have
that
to
brother.
do something on
Oh
him.
my God, we got to.
Yes, sir.
That's very awesome. Very awesome. There you go. You got 30 something. And there we go. We're done.
Yes, sir. This is a blessing, Bruce.
Thank
Man,
you.
I'm glad to get you here, brother.
Yeah.
But you want to get them.